Hello, welcome to the 2022-23 Ultimate Player Review tier list for AFC Bournemouth. That's a mouthful. My name's Sam Davis.
My name's Tom Jordan.
The season is over. Bournemouth finished 15th in the division. It was all right in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, we'll take it, mate. We stayed up. We got the job done. Remit done. And hopefully a bit of progression now. And yeah, good signs, mate. Apart from losing a certain player, it's been all right.
We'll talk about that, I'm sure, at some point. It's been a season of transition, really, and for a season of transition, to be in 15th is actually all right. But with that came some good player performances, some not so good player performances, some player performances which baffled, which surprised. We've got a tier list, Tom, and we're going to go through the tier list categories. We've got 5 in front of us. Tom, do you want to talk me through what these are all about then?
Yeah, so right at the bottom, which hopefully there won't be too many in, we've got Season to Forget, which is pretty self-explanatory. We'll have to forget the season as quick as they can because it wasn't a good one for them. One up from that, I've got Expecting More, so that might be me personally or as a fan base, if you like, or them, that they kind of probably should have pushed on a bit more. Pretty solid, as I say, is just literally like that's what I expected. They've done all right, consistently good as well. I just feel like they've had a good season. Haven't been top, but they've been good and they'll be happy. And then right at the top, which we'll put a few in, is one of the best. So would have been, for me anyway, up there with Player of the Season in that conversation anyway.
So these are going to cause controversy, I'm absolutely certain. And we invite you on the link below, we've popped the link below for our tier list, to do the exact same tier list. And on social media, probably Twitter maybe, or Facebook, where you can put an image in a comment reply, just screenshot and then post what your tier list is using the players. Now, we've done it mainly for the players that have had some Premier League minutes or prominent players.
Yeah.
So there are some that haven't been involved whatsoever. For instance, Gavin Kilkenny.
Yeah, Dennis.
Will Dennis.
Sorry, Will, if you're watching.
Christian Sadie. But we have had some players that have come in with the intention of playing in the Premier League, like your Darren Randolphs, but haven't had minutes. But we will still rank them.
Yeah.
So, how are we going to do it? In alphabetical order. Yeah, let's do it in alphabetical order. So, we're going to start off with Adam Smith, who's been, to me, Mr. Reliable, but as scapegoats go, we usually have a scapegoat most seasons, and I think that he's been scapegoated a fair bit. Yeah,
it's normally one that's given their all to the club and people want a bit of a change, something brand new and shiny. That's my opinion, because we had it with Andrew Sermon, with Simon Francis. This is probably going to be one that a lot of people disagree with and go lower, but for me, he's been pretty solid. I don't think he's been brilliant, and he's had what I think he's understandable where he's lost maybe some legs.
Yeah, he doesn't get forward as much.
No, of course not. I don't think the system actually wants him to get too much forward anyway. I think we're a bit pragmatic. But listen, you can't say he hasn't been solid. He's been fine. Yeah. He hasn't been horrendous for me, and I don't think no one expected him to be unbelievable. So I think it's quite I'm comfortable to put him pretty solid. I do think people will put him lower or make a case for that. But I think that's just going off what he was like 5 years ago, and I don't think that's fair. I think next season, I wouldn't be surprised if he's a bit more of a squad player.
He hasn't really had much competition kind of breathing down his neck. Is it like, for instance, Ryan Fredericks has barely featured. Jack Stacey hasn't been involved that much.
It's not his fault that Jack Stacey's not good enough, as we've now seen he's departed for a league lower because of that. And Ryan Fredericks has been injured.
And even Chris Mepham's gone across at times.
Yeah, so I think, to be fair, he's been fine when he's played there. So yeah, I'm putting him pretty solid, and I'm quite happy with that, to be honest, mate. Not a problem at all.
Yeah. Okay, so pretty solid then for Adam Smith. Next, Antoine Semenyo came from Bristol City. He was. I never really, when we signed him, I didn't really know what his role was going to be. Someone to challenge Dom or complement Dom or whatever, and. Go on, talk to me about him. What do you think?
It's a weird one because I don't think he's done anything too wrong, and I didn't expect him to come in and be our best player.
No.
Coming from the Championship, still young, and he did get a goal, to be fair to him. But
it was always going to be a step up.
Yeah, but I'm going to put him in this category just because I think for players that we come on to, they've managed to... Because he started quite early, I think it was at Brighton, and he started the game. I think people that have ended up finishing the season, I thought Semenyo would be above them. So, for me, Semenyo... he done fine, but when he did play, I don't think he grabbed the shirt.
No.
So just for that small period, what did I expect from him? I expected a little bit more.
Yeah.
So it speaks for itself. I'm going to put him in expecting more, and I'll probably come back to that when I talk about players going forward. But I'm still thinking, as a young player, he could play a good part.
And that category is not necessarily a criticism, is it?
I think he would say the same.
Yeah.
I genuinely think if you said Semenyo, I think he'd say, it's nice to get my first Premier League goal, be a part of a team that's ended up staying up when it looked like we wouldn't.
Yeah.
But I probably would have expected to play more minutes and do a bit more. So I think that's fair, mate.
Player that got sent out on loan in January, which surprised me at the time, is Ben Pearson, because he had some Premier League minutes under his belt.
He started the first game.
Yeah, he did, but I didn't think he would go out.
No, I don't.
But I suppose when you look at it now, we've got a fair few options in centre field, so you can maybe understand why. But I don't know.
What would have been interesting is if you'd had a bad injury or send it off to Jefferson Lerma. Because then you haven't got a natural replacement. I know you would have probably put Lewis Cook in there. You'd have had to drop Billing deeper, which is not ideal, which we've done a few times.
Goal threat,
or gone to a three at the back, or you would have had to change things, whereas Pearson's like for like. But for him, first chance of the Premier League, starts the first game of the season, does okay. He will definitely be disappointed, I would have thought. I think in the end he's done quite well at Stoke. I think they quite like him. I don't think he'll be here any longer. So you've got to say for him personally, it's a season to forget, because I thought he'd be a player that would maybe come on in games and see the clock out for us. When Lerma's got a knock, he'd come in and be fine. He might start a few games. That didn't materialise. So it's got to be season to forget for him, because he's ended up being gone out on loan because he wasn't up to it.
I agree with that. Right, the next person is a player that I probably feel sorry for the most.
Yeah,
and have done for a number of seasons, really. Chris Mepham.
Yeah, because I think we've all said it before.
He never does anything wrong.
Not really. Comes in, does pretty well. The only thing I will say is sometimes maybe he gets a knock, which gives someone an opportunity, and then you can't drop that player. So he'll get a knock. We'll go, we'll have to play Stevens then. He does really well, and you go, you can't put Mepham back in now.
But he's always picked for Wales, like always.
It is, and then we'll get, as we mentioned a little bit with Smithy, and also a left back as well. I remember last season when Leif Davis was out. You go, let's just do a job for us. We've done it at Palace this season against Zaha. Can you just do a job for us there? And you go, yep, fine, and just do a job there. But really, I think the first part of the season when he was playing, I think he was our best defender.
Yeah, I thought so. He was on course for Player of the Season. Definitely,
he was definitely, 100%. And I think even in them votes, he did manage to get quite a few.
Yeah,
I think he might have come like 5th or 6th. To his credit. So again, no one's joining anyone in the category at the moment, because I'm putting him in consistently good.
He was consistently
because
good.
Because every time he played, he was consistently good. I can't remember having a bad game.
He just needed more time, really. But then, it's one of these things. How can you dislodge a successful partnership?
And will he? It'll be really interesting to see what he wants as a player, because you briefly mentioned it about he is consistently picked for Wales, and I'm not being funny. I think everyone would probably agree. Say if you disagree, but with Zabarnyi, with Senesi, with Lloyd Kelly, potentially someone else incoming, he's not going to be a starter again.
No.
Will he be banging the door and going, I'm sorry, but I appreciate I'm not a starter, but then I need to leave because I want to stay in the Wales squad?
Yeah.
It'll be interesting, because if he leaves, I think it will be from him saying I need first team football, and I would respect that, because I think from our point of view and from Gary, he probably thinks, I want you in the squad.
Yeah.
So it'll be whether he... There'll probably be an interesting discussion with his Welsh partner as well. We'll come on to about, are they happy to be squad players, or does he want to play? I hope he'll stick around, but I wouldn't blame him if he wants to go and play first team football, mate. But I like Meps. He's been consistently good when he's played.
Next, player that we signed from ourselves in some ways, from Lorient, one of our sister clubs, Dango Ouattara, or Dango Ouattara.
Yes.
Players still call him Dango, even though
I'm not sure what it is.
Dango, people don't know, but Ouattara anyway.
Ouattara, running down.
Oh, hello.
Yeah. I was thinking of it because he got that assist against Liverpool.
Yeah, he did.
And I was thinking you could do that because it's the Salah one, Egyptian king.
Yeah.
You go, to Phil Billing, Ouattara, like come on.
As long as Phil Bill stays, of course.
Yeah, but he did it in that.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's what we can't.
But I like him.
he hit the ground running.
Yeah.
I mean, I think his assist stats were ridiculous at the start and provided probably the most memorable moment of the season at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. What a goal that was. I feel as though he nowhere near the end product, but even still, if we're getting these kind of numbers, he's like the opposite of Ryan Christie in some ways, because Ryan Christie works so hard and technically gifted, but just hasn't got the numbers, whereas this guy seems to get the numbers.
Yeah, I also think that some of his, say, more underwhelming games have actually been because Christie's got the shirt on the right. He's been playing on the left because Tavernier's been out. And he's not as effective on that left-hand side. Not at all. I thought he was poor in the last game against Everton. I thought he was one of our worst players. And there was a game at Leicester where he got brought off before half-time and he was on the left. But when he was on the right, he was getting a few assists.
Well, I think his debut was against Nottingham Forest or someone where he
yes, and
where
he put it
cut
in
the ball
for
back.
Anthony.
Yeah.
And then he done it against Liverpool, as we mentioned. Obviously got the goal at Tottenham. I think for a 20-year-old lad who's only played in France, which no disrespect, is not the elite, is not Premier League, to come in and get the numbers he has in that short space of time and a winner, I'm happy. I would have definitely taken that when we signed him. I think he's 20. I think he's raw. I think he's going to be a squad player for a bit. But I'll tell you what, you could have 15 years of the lad. Do you know what I mean? He's got so much longer. So for me, he's going in pretty solid.
Yeah.
Pretty solid.
I don't think you can put him above that. I don't think. No.
But I think it's one of them. He comes in, you go, you happy? I go, yeah, happy. Happy with what he's done. Happy with what he's done. But you can't say consistently solid because I don't think he's been that level every game, and I think that shows his age and shows that he's raw and he's got potential, because he's had games where I thought, oh, he's a player, and then other games I think he's useless. So, and that's going to be that, but because of his numbers when he come in, he deserves to be in that for me.
Right, I hate to say it, but the next person's Darren Randolph. Hallelujah. Right, where? I mean, look, he's not featured. I thought he might have featured.
And the bad boys,
never gets picked.
Yeah, I don't think anyone anticipated him getting picked.
No.
It sounds like when Neto had a few knocks, I think there was a point where we thought, we've got Travers, but if we get any other injuries, we're going to our youth team.
Why are we reviewing it? Like, why are some players where we don't deem that they should be on this list, whereas Darren Randolph, we've put him in there despite him having no minutes?
Because his
name carries some gravitas, I suppose, and he was one of our, not marquee signings, but he was a big part of our transfer activity, I suppose.
Yes, and I would also say he was third choice goalkeeper at West Ham.
Yeah.
He's come to a team that were slightly in a worse position and finished in a worse position by ever so slightly. You would think he should be knocking on the door, and I think the only reason I've said to put him in is Neto sadly had to miss the last game of the season. He could have said, it was a big game. I mean, credit to Travers, by the way, that we'll come on to, but big atmosphere. You're going to Everton away, they're going to put balls in the box. If he was that good in training and showing this sort of stuff, you would have played Darren Randolph. Yeah. And when I saw Neto wasn't going to be playing, I wondered if Randolph would come in. But to trust Travers more, I think shows that Randolph obviously isn't at that level. He's maybe coming for behind-the-scenes stuff. But for him, surely, he's got, I ain't kicking a ball. Yeah. I'm making a move in January. I want to make some minutes if I can.
And he hasn't.
Got to be season to forget, hasn't it? It's got to be. But it's a season to forget. For two clubs, really.
Yeah, very much so.
It is.
Next, I mean, this is an interesting one. I mean, David Brooks, obviously coming back from the Hodgkin lymphoma, and look, let's be real about it. Some of his early performances were underwhelming.
Yes,
and I think there were maybe emotional reasons for Gary O'Neill picking him rather than anything tactical. Really, it was always a concern trying to get him back to full fitness, and it felt like when he was brought back it was probably too soon. I know he scored that hat-trick in the under-23 game, or it was at Dean Court, which was great to see, but Premier League football is a different level, and he got found out. He did get found out, and there were a few performances that he had, but I've got to say his last performance at Everton was probably his best that I've seen.
I agree.
Certainly since what happened, and I thought he looked strong, he looked confident, he looked, glimpses of the David Brooks of old.
Yeah, a few little touches and that. I think he should have shot at one point where he cut it back to Solanke, and maybe if it was on his left foot. But yeah, that was the main positive to come out of that game for me. We didn't really compete in the game too well, but I thought it was really good signs, and he ran himself into the ground. You got to remember, it's not just a long-term injury. It's a very unique and sadly a unique situation where you can't blame the staff and the coaches and all that, because this is so new that they're testing the waters with it. They don't know what he's going to be like, and I think at the moment, what he showed against Everton is he's a bloody good footballer, which we all know. he's just getting to about an hour and he's burning out, which is totally understandable. Massive to see that he's just been called up for Wales. That must be amazing for him. Really chuffed for him. And I tell you what's going to be really interesting for me is you mentioned briefly about the under-23s game. Unfortunately, when you go and play in that, it's ridiculous. He's so much better than them technically that he doesn't even need to be up to the levels physically. So then you go, well, that's not that helpful now. But if you think about it honestly, I don't know if you agree, he's going to be a squad player.
So you're thinking maybe loan out?
Because is him just sat on the bench going to help him?
Well, it all depends. If our transfer activity is exciting as some people suggest it might be,
he's going to be sat on the bench.
Yeah, that's right.
And sitting on the bench isn't going to help him. Equally, just playing for the under-23s isn't going to help him. So, but is he in a position, like I said, it's so unique, but is he in a position where whatever happens, he needs to be playing competitive football? Do we look at somewhere, Cardiff or Swansea or whatever in Wales, you go and play in the Championship? I'm not sure, and that would be something that the club would have to think about. But, I want him involved in the squad from a selfish point of view. I'm just thinking more for him. Is that going to help him just sitting on the bench?
Play him at the racecourse ground and he can put the balls in the box for Paul Mullin to head in,
Yeah, that's not a bad shout. It's not a bad shout.
I think at that level's probably a bit too...
Yeah, I still think he should be going like Championship. I think if he was obviously a bit of a legend at Sheffield United coming through. Yeah. Sadly, they got promoted because I think if they had stayed down, that could have been one. But yeah, listen, Brooksy, I'm going to, sentimentally as well, I'm going to put him in pretty solid because I think it's a very personal situation. I'm not saying he was as good as other people that are going to be in this category, but for him, I didn't think he'd actually end up playing a part.
Yeah.
I thought it would be too soon for him, and I thought we'd get him ready for pre-season. So for him to have played a part and have a really good hour performance against Everton, I think that's good, and I think he would be happy with that.
Yeah. Next, Dom Solanke notched 29 in the Championship last season. It's fair to say the numbers weren't quite that this season in the Premier League. They never were going to be, but his style is integral.
Yeah.
But I do feel as though his numbers should be better, really.
Yeah, I find it really difficult because obviously watch him every game and you just think he's so good.
Yeah.
And if we didn't have him, we'd be absolutely stuffed. And everyone around him must be so happy that we've got him. And listen, don't get me wrong, as a striker, he's got to get more goals. But Leeds had a player in Rodrigo who I didn't realise got 13. Well, they've gone down. Sometimes Wolves didn't score barely any goals. They've been fine. Sometimes, if it helps the team, you don't actually. It's a bit of a myth that you need a 20-goal a season striker because we didn't have one. Wolves didn't have one. Leeds nearly did, and they went down. But I remember that last game of the season against Everton and a few little chances. I thought that's nothing about he's putting loads of work in and doing. He's just got to do better in them situations. I remember Villa away at 1-0.
Newcastle at home, we could have won
it. Yeah, he's still got to be better in them situations. And regardless of all the work he does, and he's exceptional and I love him, he can't score 6 goals. No. When he's played nearly every game. He can't. He's got to get more. Yeah. He can't be scoring one more goal than Lerma. He just simply can't. He needs. I think what I will say is most strikers get a chance.
He should be top scorer.
He's got to be top scorer, and for me as well, most strikers will be able to notch up their tally with penalties, and he maybe would have done if we had got one. So, let's be real, you'd like to think you're going to get at least 2 or 3 penalties. Yeah. That suddenly then starts knocking him on double figures. Yeah. But I love Dom, and I want to put him in one of the best, because I think he's been one of our best players.
Yeah.
But because of that situation, do I put him one down? What do you think?
He's between them.
He is really between them.
Well, should we just put him in consistently good for now?
Yeah, fair.
And then I think what we'll probably end up doing is go through this and think, actually, to be fair, probably one of the best.
And
maybe.
And it's an open-ended one. I think, without knowing, in the comments and people will be having that same debate of he's one of our best players, but he should be getting more goals, which means he's in the middle of them too. So, going to put him in there for now, yeah.
Did Marcondes get Premier League minutes?
Come on at Liverpool, I believe.
Did he?
Yeah, in the 9-0, so get out of there.
Where is he now? Norway somewhere?
Yeah, Denmark.
I
think it's Denmark, yeah. But listen, I like Emmy. I think he's very likeable. I think we all knew. I was kind of surprised at the start of the season when he hadn't gone out on loan.
Yeah, I agree.
For him personally, I don't think we need to talk about him too much. No. He hasn't really played. For him personally, he's got to go in a season to forget. Yeah. Done all right at Norwich in the cup game, scored and got a penalty and stuff as well. But we're not going to go into that too much. That's why, because Sadie done one in that game. Yeah. But in terms of Premier League, he's been shipped out quickly. He would have thought, the start of the season, I haven't been shipped out on loan yet. Let's try and get into the squad. It hasn't happened, so he's got to forget it from a Bournemouth perspective.
Can I ask you a question?
Go on.
Is it Hamed, is it Junior, or is it both?
I believe it's Hamed Junior Traore, isn't it?
So it's both.
I think just a little bit of lightheartedness. I think it was Hamed Traore, and then he got injured and he went to junior.
Yeah.
No.
What's that from you?
It's just a difficult one.
He had a really good start. I think Brighton was his first game, wasn't it? And I thought he looked an exciting prospect, and then
Injuries.
For injuries and
another one. I think. I'm actually excited. I am excited to see him fully fit.
I think he's going to be great for us, but we just need to see it.
Just as long as this is just one of them things, he's not an injury-prone player.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But
where do you put this then?
I think you've got to go you've got to go expecting more.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at it going, he coming in January.
Yeah.
I thought he'd be. I looked at him and Dango Ouattara and thought he'd be the better one.
Yeah.
He wasn't expecting more because it's not season to forget because he came in after and got injured. It's not really his fault, and he played. He done okay when he played. So yeah, I'll put him in there, mate.
I think next we got a player that is starting to show some good signs. Illya Zabarnyi.
We said about the Everton one that I thought Brooks was a shining light. He was the other one. For me, he looked like experienced.
He's improving every game, isn't he?
Yeah, he looked like an experienced 30-year-old centre-half. I think he played against United, didn't he? And then Everton. I thought in both games he looked solid as a rock.
In the United game, they did an every touch or something along those lines on Twitter and stuff, and he just looked really composed on the ball, happy to run forward with the ball. I thought he looked great.
It was the one where, obviously watching him and thinking, you see, I like his size. I mean, we know with set pieces, I think he should help with that. It's a big stature of a guy, and obviously I thought he'd be comfortable on the ball, which he was, and he was good in the air and blah, blah, blah. And then there was a moment in that United game where I think it was Anthony, who's quick, ran through for him. Zabarnyi's not near him. And he just almost a light jog across and he catches up with him, just gets the ball back. And I thought, he's got something, this lad, and I'm excited to see more of him. Unfortunately for this tier, I can't not put him in expecting more because he come in and I thought he's going to come in, be our main centre-half and keep... He wasn't.
You expect him more?
Yeah, I expect him to play more. He got injured. It's the same as Hamed.
Oh, I think he should be pretty solid. Oh, well, okay, look, I'll put him in expecting more.
Yeah.
We'll see how it pans out.
I think because of the fact that how highly rated he is, similar to I just thought he'd come in and just take that spot. In the end, it ended up being Jack Stevens that got the spot. But yeah, I'm excited for him, definitely.
So, first for this tier list is a player that is no longer a Bournemouth player. Jack Stacey signed for Norwich City.
Yeah. See him in the cup when we get him, probably.
Yeah, can't wait. God. In the southern draw. I really feel for Jack because he showed these little signs of promise. He sort of I compared him with with Simon Francis. He had that kind of stature about him, but just not the quality. Yeah. Really, but I think he was a player that showed some good signs offensively at times getting forward, but that energy, that left him defensively short. These little 100%. Lung-busting bursts every so often, but apart from that, I just felt as though some parts of his games were lacking, and no wonder why Adam Smith was always the first choice.
Yeah, and I think probably less so this season in terms of he hasn't had the opportunity. I remember last season he actually did get a chance in some games because of injuries or whatever. And he started in the Championship, and that's a level. And he'd come in and he just wouldn't grab the shirt.
Yeah.
He would never Derby away, like defensive lapses in college. And I just think he's 27. I want to say he's not young. I think you look at him and think he's like a young lad. I don't think he's that young.
No, he had some bright spots. I remember Luton away where he came on and went on this jinky little run to put Marcondes in.
Swansea at home.
Yeah,
I remember that game.
Yeah, very good.
But yeah, and I think, put it this way, I said straight away when Norwich signed him, signing him that, because he's a player that, and I would say it's a really good move for him as well. Yeah. I actually thought, no disrespect, I thought he might go to maybe a lower end Championship. I think to go to a club that will be looking to try and go up again is big for him. And I think...
And we all thought it was going to happen earlier anyway.
He's got the energy, he's got legs, he just needs to... I think he'd be better in a wing-back system personally. But listen, it's nothing against him. He'll be looking at it and going... 2 seasons on the bounce now where I just haven't been able to do anything. And what I will say is Smithy, as we mentioned, is not at the top of his game anymore. He's losing his legs a little bit. Ryan Frederick's been injured and Stacey has still not managed to get in there.
Therefore,
he's got to be in season to forget.
Yeah,
and he would say that himself, I'm sure.
On loan from Southampton, Jack Stevens. I think he...
The wall.
He won many a Bournemouth fan's heart, I think, for a number of his performances. And Andrew Sermon, of course. Like him. Jack Stevens, what do you think? Happy with it? I think he sort of...
surprised me.
Yeah, he did surprise me. There were some really good performances, but then they sort of teetered off a little bit.
Yeah.
But then that's probably because Gary Neal still didn't really know. He was tinkering between back four and then three, and also players were coming back from injury. Want to see what Zabarnyi was like. So therefore, he didn't get the minutes. Chris Mepham was in. Lloyd Kelly was left-sided central defender on the left. So he's. I think he's been the sacrificial lamb at times. I think.
Yeah, and I think what ended up happening, sadly for him, is obviously we virtually got our safety when we beat Southampton. I think actually officially that was it. If you look back now at the points you needed, we were safe after the win at Southampton. It felt like that was virtually it, and he was obviously ineligible to play that game. So then he never got back in because there was no point then. He's obviously probably not going to sign for us, so there was no point then. And we wanted to Zabarnyi was going to get some minutes then. But what Will says, I think we've got some. I think we mentioned about Zabarnyi. I think Stacey, good ball playing defender. I think Lloyd Kelly's comfortable with the ball at his feet. So is Mepham. I think sometimes when you're in a scrap, you need someone that Jack Stevens, I'm sure, would say himself. He's not a ball playing defender. He's not. No. He will just clear the bloody thing. But you need someone that will just dive in front of everything. He's not. He's not technically as good as any of the centre halves we've got, in my opinion.
Although, did you see that goal he scored for the under-21s where he sauntered?
Oh yeah, that's true actually. Yeah,
great finish.
Yeah, but I think he was a player that when we needed someone in a scrap to just block everything, have that heart desire, and just get, you know what I mean? I thought he was brilliant at it, and I think more what's helped him is that I just didn't expect anything. I thought, if he's not good enough for Southampton centre halves, and look at them, he can't be any good. So I was happy with him. I'm going to put him in consistently good.
Yeah, wow, okay. Jack
and this
Stevens.
is what, I just want to quickly go back to it. This is why I was so unsure with the Dom thing, because Dom Solanke, was he one of our best players? He didn't score enough goals, maybe not. He's miles better a footballer than Jack Stevens.
I think he's got to go up now.
So that's what I'm going to put up.
Yeah, okay. Dom's
Do you know what I mean? It's horrible. But Jack Stevens deserves to be in a category above the three that are below him currently. So, yeah.
One of my favourite players next, Jaidon Anthony.
Okay.
One of my favourite players. She's just such a likeable lad.
And if he bleached his hair like he did, you've got to start him for me.
Yeah,
as soon as he's done that haircut, start him.
Exactly. But he didn't get played as much as he perhaps wanted to. Obviously, the introduction of Ouattara was reason for that as
Christie's form.
Yeah, Christie as well.
Taverner.
I
think he suffered from the whole situation with Jordan Zamora.
Do you reckon?
Yes. I don't think that helped him because they did have a good combination.
Yeah,
I think at times previously we saw that when we'd maybe have a sticky patch, we'd always go, let's just play Daniels and Pugh because we know what we're going to get, and we didn't have that option anymore. I think that affected Jaidon and also stopped us playing him. I feel like he probably deserved a few more minutes. What I will say is when he started a few times, did he properly grab the shirt? Probably not.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see him a little bit more, especially like Everton last game. I thought, why is he not starting him here? But what I will say is, you look at we keep saying, and obviously we'll come on to him, about, Christie and his form and blah. If you look at strictly numbers, he got a few goals,
Yeah.
And that goal at Forest.
Yeah, very
home
true.
and away.
That was a pressure fixture, that.
Home and away, they're crucial
shot.
goals. And I do think he's a player that can, if he played a bit more regularly, he could get some. He is a bit of a goal threat, which I think we've said. We obviously alluded to it with Dom. We struggle with that. But yeah, it's a weird one with Jaidon. I think, did I expect more? Probably not. It's his first ever season. I think it's fair to put him pretty solid.
Yeah, pretty solid. And that's not a criticism, is it, at all?
I think,
you know what, and he knows that he can give more. Yeah,
and I think he'll come in out of the side. I think similar to Dango and Ryan and other players in that kind of role. I think what will be for him, like it will be the others, is next season when you get your chance, go and bloody take it, mate. Because it's going to be hard for him to start every week. So he's got to take it. But yeah, he's important to have part of the squad.
Jamal Lowe.
Always believing so.
Of course, went out on loan.
Yeah. Started okay at QPR, but then he went a bit down.
Yeah.
This
one's really difficult. I mean, or is it?
Yeah, I don't think it's difficult.
Did we ever think he would make the grade? I don't think we did.
I agree with that. The only reason I'm going to put him in season to forget. One, because he's been shit down on loan and he would have wanted to be a part of it. But also, I would have thought he would have felt that, we don't need to bring in Antoine Semenyo because I've done it in the Championship. I'm just as good as him. I should be that player that if Dom gets a knock or we don't want to go down Kiefer Moore route because of the system, I should be playing. We decided to get a player from the Championship because Jamal Lowe won up to it, and I think he'd have been disappointed with that because I certainly would have. I would have felt in his position that he would have thought, I'm better than Semenyo. And We obviously didn't think so, and little glimpses, I think Semenyo probably is a little bit better. So yeah, disappointed for Jamie. I don't know why I'm calling him Jamie, but I like it. He's quite likeable, and I think he's always put shit. I think it was the same last season. You'd always be happy for him to play. Just don't think he's quite good enough, mate.
All right.
I don't.
Season 2, forget. We are exactly halfway through our tier list, and you know what? The next half is coming out on a brand new video on Back of the Net. We've done 15, and then we've got a hell of a lot more to go, and you may have seen that there's a certain person there that Tom's been really just wanting to talk about all the time, but enough about Mark Travers. Of course, no, I know who you're thinking of. But on the next show, we're going to do the rest. Look, remember, there's a link below. I know this is the first part, but just get involved already. We want to know how you think it's going to pan out. Put it on Twitter, put it on Facebook, post your tier lists, and then we're going to complete this in the next part coming on YouTube soon. So when you do hit subscribe, there is a little bell you can click, and then there's a little thing involving a thumb.
Oh, a little like button, click that, because then more people can see it and more people can get involved in the tier.
Up the cherries. We'll see you very, very soon for part 2.
Oh, I just remembered we're doing Lerma.